Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sharpest College Football Podcast, looking ahead to Week 14. This is BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin. Robert, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for the championship games, but I'm a little sad that the season is mostly over. We're gone are the like dozens of games on Saturday. That's gone now. It's down to just a couple games, and then we still have a lot of football left to be played and some good football left to be played, but it's just less now, and it's sad, but it's good.
It is. It is. And we're going to break format a little bit here. Instead of the market intelligence and deeper dive segments, we're going to kind of mush those two together and just look at each of the championship games in a little more detail than usual, which will be fun. Rather than you and I just talking off the top of our head about whatever kind of game that struck my fancy on Sunday night. So that'll be cool. So having said that, let's get into the metrics. The first one to look at here is the top model, my model's strength of record top 20. Before we started, you asked me if I was surprised by anything. And the one thing that surprised me a little bit, I mean, obviously Ohio State's still there at number 6, but that made sense. I kind of thought Michigan would be number 1 by virtue of beating Ohio State. Now, I've ripped on them for having a weakish schedule, but that win, unless I'm missing something, really is better than I think anything. And this is in my whole ratings world. I think that win is more impressive than any win that Georgia has on their resume. Would that be fair?
For Ohio, yeah, Ohio State would be. I'm just trying to think of what the second most impressive mission. Penn State, and then Georgia's would be Missouri.
Missouri, yeah, or
Is that why they
Tennessee.
rank Missouri ahead of Penn State, just so they could justify ranking? With this, you never know with this committee. These people are nuts. I have no idea what they're
Yeah.
doing. Like,
You know what? I'm just going to blame the Sugar Bowl guy because that just is a good, just kind of little
seems like a good
easy,
scapegoat.
com-
Yeah,
good comedy crutch. Just like, yeah, Sugar Bowl guy. What's he doing there? What does he know anyways? Maybe he's
yeah,
good at math and he just, okay, hey, if we're going to put Georgia ahead, then we got to put Missouri ahead. Okay, thank you, Sugar Bowl guy. Go put on your oddly colored blazer and make
yeah.
millions of dollars. Um, you know, Washington at number 2, this just kind of gets to your whole anguish about why are they ahead of Oregon. And I think this is it. Now, this goes back to that whole dichotomy of they say they're looking for the best, but they're giving it more realistically to the most deserving. And you see that split between number 2 and number 13, Washington, Oregon. I think that's kind of, and you don't have the same, but again, you're going, you're going based on power ratings, rather than strength of record here. And that'll line up with what we have on the next slide here. But I think that's kind of your frustration that you're dealing with in part 1, week
Mhm.
after week.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that one was particular. Like, I mean, that's fair, but it's that one. I think it's such an egregious example of it. They're like, oh, or Washington played such a tough schedule. They had to play Oregon State, and then Oregon just destroys them when Washington won by like 2. And people are like, it's because like people praised Washington for beating Oregon State. It's like, oh, it's a tough win, and then Oregon destroys them, and they're like, yeah, whatever, it's expected. It's like, no, it's not
Of
expected,
course.
but
No, come on. You said Oregon's good. It's supposed to
yeah,
happen. So, yeah, Toledo's still not ranked. Interesting. I don't remember where you have them ranked. Let me sneak ahead real quick. Toledo, Toledo, Toledo. Well, I don't have my top 20 either. So, in power rating. So maybe that is okay. Um, Louisville is still at number 18 here, which makes things interesting for Florida State. And they're 10th in the college football playoff. So funny, one of my buddies, Q Dog, as he goes by on Twitter, he asked me about Florida State, and I said, yeah, with Rodemaker out, I think that they need an absolute statement victory to stay in the top 4. Now, I might have overlooked, how Louisville is a top 10 team. So maybe if they just win, that's enough to stay in. Does that seem reasonable? It
I
probably
think they're
depends on
set.
who else we need to make a case for being in or out, right?
It's so like it's such a they've made a mess of this now because it's like because
What?
even the guy a
The
committee making
USA
a mess of
Today
things.
the USA Today writer, the Sugar Bowl committee president. What?
I know it's, but like here's the problem. What they should have done, which would have given them a very easy way to back down from the eventual controversy that's going to happen, is you put Oregon 5, you put Texas 6, you put Florida State 7, and then you put Ohio State 8, and you call it a day. You walk away and you say, let this all sort itself out. But now, because you decided to, you basically said we're going to crush Ohio State because they lost to Michigan, which they actually outgained them, but whatever. We don't care about that fact for some strange reason. You basically say, okay, we're now going to crush Ohio State, but also because now they're out of the top four, we but they're like, well, Florida State was our fifth ranked team, and the second and the third ranked team or whatever. I think it was I can't. I know Ohio State was second, right? They had Ohio State or I don't whatever. Ohio State was ahead of them. I don't care about the
Mm-hmm.
old ranking, whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not relevant here. But a team ahead of them fell and they won, so we can't move them down. But like, yes, you can. Their quarterback was not good. They shouldn't have won that game. Florida should have won that game. Like really. And if you watched that game, which you should have because there was no other games
Mm-hmm.
on really at that time, you would have seen that they should not have won that game. And
Yeah.
then you wouldn't have put them fourth. But now you've boxed yourself into a corner because now are you going to drop the fourth ranked undefeated team after they win their conference game against the 10th-ish ranked team? No, you can't now. But now you're screwed because now you like it was dumb. It was really dumb. And then now there's like here's the thing they're saying, oh, cuz the guy after came on and said, "Oh, well, it's a completely different team now with Tate Rodmaker as quarterback." But the other people on the team are contributing. I'm like, but then why did you move them up? If you're unsure of this team, move them down. Don't move them up. Like you can always like adjust later. Like it's just it was really dumb for them to do what they did. And they've boxed themselves into a corner now. And
Yeah.
the only way out is that there's going to be like they have to pray. And this is still going to end badly too, but they have to pray that Louisville beats them. And then even then there's going to be controversy because then they have no idea how to deal with Ohio State and Texas. Because the thing is,
Yeah.
for all intensive purposes, everybody's talking about the Oregon-Washington game and how it doesn't have an impact. That game, those two sort themselves out. One of them gets in. That game is a play-in game for the college football playoff. One of them gets in, one of them doesn't. That's it. Done. I don't know why people don't realize that. Like, the odds of Washington losing to Oregon and then getting the fourth seed are remote, and then the odds of Oregon somehow leaping over Florida State to get the fourth seed if they lose is remote. So the winner of that game gets in, the loser doesn't. That's it. Period. End of discussion. Cool. That leaves one more spot. If Florida State wins, then they're going to be an undefeated 13-0 team. But like, what if Tate Rodmaker looks horrible? What if they win because they run the ball a bunch of times against Louisville and he throws for 3 interceptions? Are you really going to put them in the college football playoff to get annihilated by Georgia or Michigan? Is that really the plan? Because now you have to because you put them fourth now. You could have, because you actually, last week you dropped them a spot, but you could have kept dropping them. You could have put them behind Ohio State. You could have put them behind Texas. And then you have an excuse to not put them in. You have to say, well, Rodmaker has to prove himself. And that would have been fine. People would have accepted that because people were like, yeah, we probably should have lost to Florida, but now you've screwed yourselves. So,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah. I'm one who usually thinks that there's too much movement in the polls based on a loss late in the season because it's built into the body of work. I think the polls should be a lot more fluid in September, and you shouldn't move the standard 5 or 6 or whatever spots for losing a game. But at the end of the season, I'm fine if you lose to the right opponent, not moving at all. It seems like they just kind of, I don't. Seeing as they already built into the whole body of work that they had Ohio State ahead of Florida State before, I don't know anybody in the game. If they're just looking for the 4 best, I don't know if anything that would say, okay, anyone that would reasonably look at those two teams and say, yeah, based on Saturday, Florida State is now better than Ohio State. It doesn't, it's not even close. Now,
Or Oregon is like Florida State should be behind Oregon and Texas and Ohio State. All three, it should be behind all three of them. Actually, you can make an argument it should be behind even more people too.
yeah,
But
especially because they lost their quarterback. And if you were looking for the best team, they are nowhere near the team they were before. And I say this as
yeah,
someone with a Florida State ticket. Now,
yeah,
granted, I don't know. I'm out a podcast that's at almost 60% of a win percentage, and I know that is nothing compared to being the president of the Sugar Bowl or being a former national writer for USA Today. But maybe that's just my shortcomings. I don't know. Maybe I have a skewed vision.
I think the argument here is that it's like the rankings have to be like the rankings. I feel like they cater to people who don't understand math, and they're like, well, this team is undefeated. Why are they not in the top four? It's like, well, because they're not good. Like, what then? Okay, so then you're saying the national championship Liberty should be in the top four too? Should
Exactly. Yeah.
and okay, like we're high on Liberty. They should not be 23rd, but they should not be in the top. They're not in the top four. They're close, but they're not actually in the top four. But this is the argument, right? Like it's like, well, it's like the argument is like, well, you can't leave an undefeated Florida State out. It's like, sure you can. They're not good now. They were actually very iffy for a lot of the season, to be honest. They barely scraped out a lot of wins against. They barely beat a Clemson team that we thought was good at the time, but has like I think 4 losses now. They got to play against Duke's backup quarterback. They played Miami,
Yep.
which I don't even know if that's a positive or a negative. I don't even know.
Right.
Like they scraped through some very close wins, especially last week against Florida with their backup quarterback. So, like this is it's a very weird situation, and the fact is that if they drop Florida State, then people are going to be like, you can't drop an undefeated Power Five conference. Like, yeah, you can. You should. Like, this is the thing because I feel like it's like, oh well, Florida State lost. How did they drop? Because they always get that complaint. It's like, well, the team ahead of us lost and we won. Why did we not move up? It's like, well, because you're not like you make the case that if a team loses to the right team, they shouldn't move it all in the
Yeah.
rankings. I agree with that. But what should have happened is you should have noticed that team was not performing at the same level several weeks ago and started slowly dropping them. But then you didn't do that because they kept winning games. So you can't say, well, they won, but they didn't look good, so we're going to move them back. But then you overcompensate that with them just dropping them like a stone the second they lose, right?
It's
I feel
yeah.
like that's what they
It's
have to
not a
do, and it's dumb.
it. It's not a deli counter where basically you are in line and you just wait for the person ahead of you to get their sandwich or lose a game and then you're up.
Yeah.
There needs to be more merit than just kind of waiting for the person ahead of you to get their meatball sub and then you're next up. It doesn't work that way. But
Mm-hmm.
that's you and me. I don't know. Maybe we're just too smart.
We're
We need
different.
to write for USA Today or be the president of the Sugar Bowl. Okay, the my power ratings and got yours in parentheses here. And look at this. Kind of to my point. Guess who's still number one? Actually, oh,
No,
did
I
I
think I
not?
had.
You
I
have
think
Ohio
no,
State.
it's just a flip. I had Ohio State 1, Georgia 2. It's not a big deal. It's not a big
Pardon
deal.
me. Okay, yeah. So we
Yeah,
both have Ohio State number
Ohio State
one.
one.
Kind of
Mm-hmm.
to the point that I don't know. I think as the kids say, if you know, you know. Um, not all losses are the same. I know that an L is an L, but if you look good and if we're looking prospectively, and if we are going for quote the best four teams, um, kind of hard to argue that Ohio State's not there based on you, me, and I did see at least one other power ratings on Twitter that had Ohio State number one as well.
Yeah, like they look good in that game, and I think there was 2 interceptions from McCord, which are unfortunate, but they're not. It's not like a stat of like interceptions are kind of random. It's not really like oh he was gonna throw those anyways, like they'd happened. McCarthy has not looked good. This is why I don't understand. People are like, "Oh, McCarthy's like a sneaky first round court." Like, why? No, he's not. If he was, then they wouldn't have had him throw 5 times against Penn State. Like, this is the thing. It's like McCarthy is not an amazing quarterback. Um, Ohio State, I felt. I mean, okay, they lost and they didn't cover the spread, but they definitely outperformed expectations. Like, they looked really good, and they could have definitely won that game. That game was a back and forth game. There was moments when Michigan looked ahead, like they were going to pull ahead. Then Ohio State would come back. It was a good game between probably two of the best teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if the committee has their way, and my I guess secret conspiracy theory, which I think is barely a conspiracy theory to be honest, is they looked at the ratings for Ohio State, Michigan. And they're like, man, it'd be great if Ohio State played Michigan again on New Year's Day in a college football semifinal. It'd be great. And they decided to put them sixth because basically what the committee's rankings infer functionally is if you believe them, it basically says that if Florida State loses to Louisville, then okay, the winner of Washington, Oregon is number 3 theoretically, and then if Florida State wins, they're 4, and then if Florida State loses, then Ohio State would be 4. But then and then you have no idea what you're going to do with Texas, and then they're going to be very mad because they're Texas, and that's kind of what they do. But if it's you're like that's the inference, and in my book, like
Mm-hmm.
the second I saw that ranking, I bet like my book let me bet Ohio State 20-1 to be in the college football playoff, and like that's like this, you're basically telling me that I could either bet Louisville plus 115 money line or Ohio
Yep.
State 20-1. Like
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
I mean that you're kind of just basically. I guess the method is you're just parlaying an Oregon win and a Louisville win, and you're getting 21 for it,
not
right?
even actually it'd be it would Oregon Washington is irrelevant to that, to be honest.
You're right. Unless they go
Yeah,
really crazy and keep Washington in, you're right.
unless Oregon Washington comes down to like a last second field goal and Oregon wins by like,
Yeah,
but like it's
yeah.
they're 9.5 point
Uh,
favorites.
I want you to find the time because I always hear this and it drives me nuts. Whenever somebody has a scenario and it always includes, well, and Georgia wins but not impressively, I'm out. I hit the delete button. When have you ever seen that, like the number one team, oh, they weren't impressive against number 8, so we're going to knock them down? It never ever happens. That's just
No,
the delusion of the chattering classes.
no,
A couple other things that are interesting here. Iowa State, jumps into the top 20 all the way at number 10 with a big win at Kansas State. I kind of liked them a little bit before the season, and then that, like I said, we were on it pretty early. That gambling thing just completely cleared the decks of the mess that was their quarterback position, and just let them be really good this season. I didn't see
mm-hmm.
that coming. Um,
it's it's weird because again we've been low on Texas for a while, and to some extent, and then we're like, oh man, Iowa State's pretty good, and then they destroy Iowa State. It's like it's so, and then like oh we're like we've been high on these other teams that Texas has been playing, and yet they somehow like always get Texas on like their bad week. They're like, oh, we're just gonna be bad this week, or do really dumb things. Like we're gonna decide to go for it on 4th and 5 in overtime instead of just kicking a field goal and going to the next overtime. Like it's it's impeccable the kind of lucky run Texas has gone on, and like you almost wonder, is it like could this be it? Right? It would make everything a lot cleaner for the committee. The committee would, if
yeah,
Oklahoma State were to knock off Texas, the committee would be like, this is great, this is good for us.
yeah,
They would absolutely love that, and because then basically then if you do that and then Louisville beats Florida State, it's done. It's over. You get exactly what you want. And I think you even get. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure exactly how you if you'd rank it that way or not. But you could either get Michigan, Ohio State on New Year's Day, or theoretically have them in the national championship game, right? So you can have a couple different scenarios for that. But like, man, it's crazy. Like it just Texas every time it's like, oh man, this team could really challenge them. They just nope. They just do something really dumb, and it's just like why like. And the thing is with the books too, like the books hang these short lines with Texas. Like they know people are gonna bet Texas. They're like, we think Texas is gonna lose this week or look bad this week. And sure enough, the other team's like, nope, we're gonna lay out a golden path here for Texas through the Big Ten, Big 12, even though they destroyed the Big 12 or tried their best to destroy the Big 12. We're just gonna roll over for them. Like I don't know, but we'll talk about Texas more later. But yeah, it's just Iowa State. Like they had again just a massive rebuilding season. Like it looked like they were going to be horrible, but everything just cleared up for them, and they've looked pretty good this year. So
yeah. And then also Kansas ran it up big at Cincinnati, and they jump into the top 20 at number 18, and we'll see a little bit more of that a little bit later here. Speaking of top offenses, jumping in from outside the top 20 to number 9, Kansas. Scott
mm-hmm.
Satterfield kind of back to his old worst tricks at Louisville, just being very obliging on defense. Not easy to jump from outside the top 20 to in at number 9, just behind Washington of all teams, who had been, remember, I think number 2 or 3 for a lot of the season. I think actually in early October, I kind of remember having a little Husky logo here, if that
Yeah,
memory serves correctly. They've
I
kind of
think that's the
regressed on
crazy.
offense.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing about this season is just like how far Washington has fallen. Like at one point, Washington was the scary team. I remember there was like Michael Penix's passing over under was like 340 yards a game. Like this Washington team was terrifying. It wasn't like there was basically like his over under was 340 yards. And basically, like you are basically even money for Polk or Dunze to go over 100 yards a game. Like that's how nuts this got at one point. And ever
Yeah.
since the Oregon game, they have not come anywhere close to that.
No. No.
And it's absolutely insane that just the collapse we've seen from this team. Every week they seem to just be getting worse and worse, and I don't understand why. It's very weird, and I don't understand why they've just absolutely crumbled. And like, I mean, okay, they're still a good team, but like, and this is the thing. The books have really liked Oregon, and like the thing was, even I questioned the 13 and a half. Like that seems a bit excessive. I had I think 14 and a half. I bet it paid off, but like even then, like Oregon just keeps like these books lay these massive Oregon lines, and Oregon covers them, and the spread's 9.5. I think a lot of people are on Washington, but like they might not cover that. Like they might get blown out here. Like
Yeah.
Oregon might be one of the best teams, and it's like it's just it avenges that game in Washington, and it's yeah, it's just it's crazy.
Yep. Well, we're just a few days away. That'll be a fun one to watch. Friday night.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, top 20 defenses. Texas jumps in from outside the top 20 to number 10. That's what happens when you just, steamroll Texas Tech. Ohio at number 20, fine, whatever. Their season is done until the bowl. Interesting that Florida State jumped into the top 20 as someone with a Florida State national title ticket. If there's one little glimmer of hope, it would be okay. They're on the improve? Question mark. Now, granted, they did it against a completely dysfunctional Florida team to jump into the top 20, but I don't know. At least there's almost a glimmer of a puncher's chance that they have enough parts on defense and
And
players not ready and brought a maker on
yeah,
offense.
and the crazy part is remember that Florida was playing their backup quarterback at that game too. That wasn't even their
Yeah,
Emirates. That was their backup. So
yeah, very fair. And then just want to say, as I mentioned in part one, Jacksonville State at number 13. They're gonna. I want to say they're gonna ruin somebody's bowl game, but that might come back to bite me as a USC guy. I don't want to face them. I'll tell you that. Speaking of Jacksonville State, the Group of Five top 10. Jacksonville State jumps in there at number 10. Gotta say, San Jose State, remember I had them, they jumped in there about a month ago, and I just said, I don't get this, but here they are. Let's see how long it stays. And I think they jumped in number 6, and they've been at number 5 for a while. Now your ratings have caught up. You didn't like them as much, as I did, but you've caught up, and you've got that as the 8th best Group of 5 team. Um, Tulane's in the top 10. We'll see them against SMU. We'll talk about that in a bit, but that's a matchup of top 10 teams here. Interesting, Jacksonville State is ahead of New Mexico State from a power rating standpoint. I think their strong defense kind of skews the numbers in their favor versus New Mexico State. I don't know what anything out here stick out. Anything in here stick out to you?
no, it's just the again the number one ranked G5 team Tulane is number 24 nation, like number 22 nationwide. It's the highest ranked according to CFP, and it's just it's ridiculous. And they've got 1 week to fix this. They're not Tulane who's going to randomly get to go to a New Year's Six bowl for no reason.
Yeah. Well, the reason is because they went last year.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Top 10 quarterbacks by Apex. Brady Cook, not a surprise. He's been there before this year, but jumps back into the top 10. Jason Bean. Kansas, I didn't see a second of that game, but they must have just had a blast at Cincinnati. Just all the offensive metrics just went just northward off of that game.
yeah, they just annihilated them, and we'll see Kansas in a bowl, and maybe they can be good again. It's this Kansas team is so sad because like they had a better than expected year. We were higher on them, and then it's just like it's like, oh well, you were wrong. You had like you thought they could make the championship game. It's like, well, they could have had they not like lost Jaden Daniels for most of the season. There, it's just like it's so tragic, this team, and it's just like if they had kept Jaden Daniels and he hadn't gotten injured, then kind of the
Yeah.
sky's the limit for them. They could have been in the championship game, right? But They lost Jade
Yep.
Daniels against Texas. They didn't have him in the Texas game, and then they lost him several weeks for. That was his last time he had ever played in that game, and then he didn't play the rest of the season. So yeah,
And they actually
it's.
were without Bean for a while too. They had that guy Ballard in
Mhm.
for a few games. I'm kind of wondering if Jalen Milrow did not hit that last pass against Auburn. Maybe Bo Nix is at number 2 in this one.
Maybe it's close.
I mean that helps the apex. And then you know what else sticks out to me when I was doing this list? This is the first time all season we did not see Michael Penix in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of your point earlier about just the slide since Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Top player Ryan. All these names are familiar to us except for, and this is not an unfamiliar name, but he is in this context. The McMillan guy from Arizona jumps into the top 10 at number 7. When you have your way with an outmanned Arizona State team, that can happen. It looked like Arizona could have scored about 80 if they wanted to. Don't know if they punted all game, but what a difference it's made since they made the quarterback change to Fafita. He's just completely turned around their team. And if they, I don't want to say if they'd started the season with him because I think he's a true freshman.
I
And
think
I don't
so.
know if that
Yeah.
would have been anything different, but boy, what could have been for that team? That's a real tough what if.
Well, again, so it's not. Again, he is a freshman. Again, comes back. He's obviously coming back next year. Jed Fish is still coming back next year. He hasn't been hired by someone else, at least not yet. Um, and to be fair, at this point, I don't know why would he. Most of the power, I think, most of the Power Five jobs have filled up now. Texas A&M is filled now. I mean Duke, but that's a lateral move, right?
No,
Like Arizona could
his,
be like
go ahead.
Arizona could be a really good team in the Big 12 next year. They could
Yeah,
be like
they will be.
they might be like the favorites. Like, and the thing is, it's crazy because like again, this year we're having this stupid debate about should like a one loss conference champion Texas team or a one loss Ohio State team that only lost to another team in the CFP go to the college football playoff. But like, if this year was next year and there's a 12 team playoff this year, we'd be like Arizona should be 12, right? Like that's the conversation
Yep.
we'd be having right now, and that'd be a great. Like I'd be like, yeah, Arizona should be the 12th ranked team, but we're not having that conversation because stupidity of like, well, we can't do it this year, let's do it next year. Like again,
Yes.
but I'm excited for that next year when we get to say, yeah, Arizona's in the top 12. Let's go. So
Yeah. And just sorry to cut you off there, but I wanted to mention this. Jed Fish's next job will be UCLA because Chip's not going to last. UCLA, I think, has never fired a coach after who's fresh off of beating USC. So that probably saved his job. But I think when the harsh realities of the Big Ten hit UCLA, I could see them getting rid of Chip and bringing in Fish. I can't imagine Fish at at a program that's not exactly swimming in money. Number one, and then number two, I don't know if you've seen the problems that Arizona's having. They kind of misplaced like millions of dollars. Have you seen this?
no, I didn't see this.
Yeah,
No,
they might have to cut sports because I guess the money's not in the bank. They just kind of somebody figured it out. Oh yeah, we
isn't
don't have that
there
much money.
isn't there like a law that says you can't do that? Isn't like money laundering or?
Yeah, there's this thing in America we have. It's called I'm just a dope defense, and it seems to work a lot. Or just I didn't know. I don't know. And not to make this a commentary on the legal system here, but it happens. So
You lose
yeah,
millions. Yeah.
they're in a tough spot, and I bring that up because I can't imagine that program's got a huge buyout at any point in time, especially now for Fish. So he might be easily attainable too. And
Mm-hmm.
just editorial here as a USC guy, I do not want to see that. UCLA's done a great job of just hiring a series of really uninspiring coaches, and that would break that trend pretty quickly, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the 5-3 UCLA loss to Iowa next year will doom Chip Kelly. That'll be it for him.
Yes. Top Ryan, not a surprise. Arizona jumped into the top 10 just like McMillan. So no real surprises here. Top GGAB. Yeah. So we've got, I don't know. If I was a Kansas fan, I'd probably still be just, smoking serial cigarettes in my football refractory period over what just happened in Cincinnati. We saw Bean jump into the top 10. Now we've got the rushing offense in the top 10. We saw the total offense jump into the top 10 out of the top 20.
What happened
What?
in this game? I've got to see what happened in this game. I've got
Yeah,
to rewatch this game.
you think that Rodemaker was murdered. I think that the entire Cincinnati team was murdered. I've seen that like 8 guys already are in the portal from Cincinnati. So maybe like 6 were kind of already in there. They just hadn't declared it yet.
They're like, we're done.
I don't.
Never again.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
The bum lists. Starting from the bottom, this is disappointing. I actually had this guy as what I had missed, and Thomas Castellanos. I guess his season, figuratively, not literally, as he's still in Boston, went southward. Now he's on the bum list. Sorry, amigo. Trexler Ivy, he was here for a moment, and he played his way out, and he's back in the top 10 all the way at number 3. Good job by you. And Alex Flynn, from out of nowhere to number 1 for East Carolina, which is not a surprise, as you might recall, East Carolina has kind of owned this spot for about, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks now. I mean, it's not even been close. Of course, Iowa made it close at the end because Iowa is Iowa. But if you've got a less explosive passing game than Iowa, I'd probably just lie on my resume and say I was just an analyst. I didn't really run that offense if I was the OC.
Just put some numbers on a spreadsheet. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, no, that was me. I wasn't that was somebody else. And then Arizona, totally outmanned down to, I don't know, kind of the QB du jour. They jumped in finally the top 10 here. Can't really blame them. They just, bad spot for their offense for quite a while here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because Ethan Kalamananis, he's announced he's entered the transfer portal, and I was like, to where?
Rutgers, as I said. He's going back to his guy, Kirk Shiraka. And you're not going to tell me, oh, he can't beat out this guy?
God,
Apex 51?
What a clash of titans there. The number 4 bumless quarterback versus the number 9 bumless quarterback.
Yes. Oh, man. Good times. All right. Defenses. Top defensive Apex. Penn State, not surprising. Ohio in on a couple of different metrics here, interestingly enough. Good for them. And like I said, they didn't make their conference, to my chagrin, did not make the MAC title game. And SMU in the top 10. SMU, and I got to point out, this is against the relatively harder part of their schedule. When they went on that tear earlier in the season, I did that deeper dive, and I said, yeah, they've played literally the 4 worst teams in the American, and it's going to get a lot tougher. And they've actually responded quite well and jumped into the top 10 here on defensive Apex. They've kind of, jumped into different kind of metrics throughout the latter part of the season too, if I remember correctly, on offense and defense.
Yeah.
All right. GGAB, a little bit surprising that Tennessee is here in terms of a run defense, but it works. And then South Alabama, not really a surprise that, they have a good defense. What's interesting is that they jump into the top 10 after playing Texas State, who basically runs the heck out of the ball. Now, maybe Texas State did not run much, and South Alabama had a bunch of sacks and really skewed the yardage. But this is a cumulative stat, so you really get into here by stopping the run a lot of times. If you don't face the run a lot, you're not going to get onto this list. So I don't know about that. It's interesting. That's just, I don't know. Texas State just kind of, makes light bend in terms of some of the metrics with that weird but effective system that they play.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We're going to dig into every single game here of the conference championships. First up, Conference USA. So, I've got laid out here for each team. I've got the apex of the starting quarterback for each team. Then I've got each team's my offensive and defensive power rating, then the total power rating. You're going to note that these numbers do not basically usually add up across because we adjust the total power rating for venues. If you've played a lot more road games, you're going to get a boost. If you played a lot more home games, you're going to probably see a little drop if you add them up. Then we've got my projections for the score, and then we've got the LeanTossup, Robert's simulation scores. So, all right, first one, my beloved New Mexico State Aggies. I'm the proud owner of two Aggies t-shirts this season. They are getting these lines are as of I think maybe like yesterday, so they might change it a little bit. Liberty is giving 10.5, total of 53.5. First thing that sticks out to me is we both have this going pretty well
Over.
over. I've got a
Mm-hmm.
67. You got 71. Now, this is not an official BuckMetrics model play because I'm going to take you back a few slides here. Remember, I talked about the top offenses here. You need to have a offensive rating of 8 or more to really make a model play. Just looking at my back testing, I found that you really need an elite offense for an overplay, an elite defense for an underplay, and so that's why this is not going to be a model play. Sorry for the back and forth and the dizzying changes here, but I might make a little play on here. I mean, this is not like a small margin we're talking about. That's the first thing that sticks out to me. What about you?
Yeah, that actually is the first thing that sticks out to me. I will also say that because this spread was 14.5, because there was the look ahead spread on this game of 14.5 when New Mexico State played Auburn, and they were 25-point
Mm.
dogs, and then they won, and then the spread moved to 10.5, which is the books basically saying they're like, okay, yeah, okay, maybe Auburn is just bad. Then Auburn almost beats Bama. So I like it's funny that they're like, oh, you won as a 25-point dog against SEC school. Okay, you're only 10.5-point underdogs against Liberty, which basically is the book saying Liberty's actually good. Like Liberty's really good. Um, like so yeah, no, but yeah, no. We both have the over, and we both have them covering. You have 13, which is a cover. I have a bigger cover, I think, closer to 16, give or
Mm-hmm.
take. But yeah, no, both covering, both better offenses. Liberty's a worse defense, which I think is why we have it going over. Um, but yeah, I think I don't
The other
mind.
thing
I don't
too
mind a play
is,
here.
yeah, this. I mean, this guy's just been unstoppable. I think what
Yeah,
was he
Caden
number
Salter.
4? Yeah, at this point of the season in my Epics ratings. So, and again, just for some context here, the average game. Let me actually just update this and just check real quick. They changed the rules, if you might remember, going into this season. So before this season, the total in an average game, FBS versus FBS, was 56. I'm going to see if I can find, pick up real quick here, scoring points. So, yeah, now it's 53, and it's been 53 for most of this season, too. So, this is literally saying this is going to be an average scoring game. I can't see that being the place or the instance. I find that total kind of ill-informed. I'll just put it that way. And again, this is
Mhm.
somebody who's been saying that he believes in Liberty's defense, but you know, maybe there's some pace considerations here too. I see you taking notes there. Were you typing in yourself a note to take Liberty in the over?
Maybe, yeah. No, I'll be. I think I already have. I got in at. I think your dogs agree.
Yeah.
I've got. I I think when the lines started opening on Saturday, there were some look ahead lines on FanDuel. It was Oregon minus. It was like Oregon minus 8.5, and then Liberty minus 10.5. So I teased both down. I kind of
Oh
like
boy.
that.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty happy with that one. But I think I do have Liberty spread somewhere. So I'm on the minus 10.5. Just probably need to do some over on that too.
Yeah. I'm just
I
kind of
will.
curious here
I will
before
say
we.
I've started betting unders now. I'm like, especially NFL unders. I'm starting to really like NFL unders.
It's that makes sense in the NFL too with that style
Yeah.
of play.
Well, because
Let
like
me see.
it's weird, and because I've noticed this with the analysis, because when you do the analysis on college, and when I do it for the NFL, it's weird because my model sometimes has like the exact point totals of the books, which is really weird, or like within a point or something, and it's weird. But then I notice that sometimes I'd be really low, and then it's like, oh wow, no one scored points in this game too, and like there was the one game when it was like. Like actually no the Bears last night's game Bears Vikings um the spread was 43. I had 40. I'm like, okay, I'll play the under. and then the the final score was 12-10.
Oh
So it's like,
Jesus.
okay,
Yeah.
so like the model was clearly directionally right. It's like I had a field goal of value, and then but like this is the thing, like the I've just now whenever my model is like significantly different from the book totals, I'm just betting it under or and over accordingly. So
Yeah. I just it's up to 55 and a half now. But there's still a
we
lot of
still have
value
value,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't even know if that'll go up. Again, like we've said, some of these lesser conferences just are very obliging with some pretty crappy lines here. All right, the other Friday night game, Oregon giving 9.5 and total of 67.5 to Washington. You've got an awesome quarterback against a guy that was awesome until he's kind of regressed over the latter part of this year. You've got two elite offenses. Um, you know, I'm actually surprised that the defensive ratings are this close, only a field goal's worth of difference. Although I have kind of called out that Oregon's defense, they were like number three when I had my first power ratings of the year, and they've kind of slid down to like, lower teens. Um, you know, Neutral field. So this difference that you see right here of 8 is about basically what I've got here. You don't have this even that close. You've got Oregon basically in a high scoring runaway. I've got, interestingly, kind of to your point, I've got a total here. It's basically right on the number of 67.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing that the line is fair. You're showing that there's probably some value on Oregon, which I cannot disagree. Again, let's not forget that this number right here, this guy was outside the top 10 about 4 weeks ago. His numbers have been nuts. Now, I don't know what the toughest defense that they've played in that time has been. Probably Oregon State, which is good-ish. Um, I'm not playing this one. It sounds like you've already got. Did you say you teased Oregon?
I teased it down. I think I got teased Oregon down to 2.5.
Yeah,
So I like
that was
that.
a nice play. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got a total of 81. I don't know if you want to go over here. 67 and a half is a pretty high number, but
It is.
yeah, this is one of those games where you could get to that almost early third quarter. It seems like.
Well, the thing is, I feel like they're trying. Like, obviously, goal one for Oregon is win the game, 100%.
Yeah.
But and again, a 9.5 spread, like 9.5 is a touchdown and then more, right? Like that's two scores territory here, right? Like goal one, obviously Oregon win the game. Goal two is get Bo Nix the Heisman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like
Yeah.
if you accomplish goal one, then you're not that far away from goal two there, right? So maybe just pack on a couple extra points. And we're starting to see this last week where they were passing a lot more against Oregon State. They let Bo Nix run in for like a 16-yard rush. I feel like they took notes when people were like, "Oh my God, Jade Daniels runs the ball." They're like, "Okay, go, like just go run 16 yards, just style on them." I feel like that was like they're like, "Okay, fine, Bo Nix can run too, guys. He can run the ball." Um, so yeah, like I obviously, and the thing is, the one cool thing about this, and this Bo Nix is currently minus 150 to win the Heisman. I think it should be a little higher than that, um, because the thing is, Daniel's season is effectively, in terms of Heisman candidacy, it's done. His season for Heisman is done. His resume is done. It's submitted. That's it. Bo Nix has got one more game. He comes out there. He lights Washington up. It's over. And that's the point, and that's why Bo Nix is the favorite. Because it's like, I think people quickly made the calculations like, hey, Oregon is 10-point favorites. If they cover the spread in this game, then obviously he wins. But if Bo Nix throws for like 3 passing touchdowns, which actually he's like minus 148 to throw for 2.5 over 2.5 passing touchdowns, he does that, he wins the Heisman, right? So yeah,
I Yeah, I don't know. This one seems like one of the more unsettled Heisman Trophy seasons. I'll put it that way.
true.
Um, Here's something. I guess there's two things to this game. I'm not playing this because if for those who've been paying attention, a point and a half is no margin at all. I need a lot more than that to play a side, and there's plenty throughout the season. Although at this point in the season, it doesn't surprise me. No play there, and the total's right on line. So this is like kind of a if I'm going to, then the case would be. If I was thinking of taking Washington plus 9.5, I'd probably take the money line instead because we go back to that crazy little deeper dive I did. I think it was a deeper dive on when they played before. And what did I say? I said for 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 the fourth downs that Dan Lanning's called to go on, for the fourth down and the subsequent possession, Washington outplayed Oregon to an expected margin where Washington would win the game by 3 points. For the rest of the game, Oregon played to a level where they would expect to win by 4 points. If it's close and you think, I think if I'm clinging to the, well, maybe you can Washington keep it close, I'm going to keep it to the, well, maybe Lanning. I don't think Oregon's had a game that's even been remotely close at any point, in the second half, at any
aside
point in
from that
time.
game, and maybe
Yeah,
Texas
since
Tech,
then.
but
Yeah, well, since then, definitely not. I mean,
no,
they
not
struggled
yeah.
with, they screwed on with Stanford for like 20 minutes. That might be kind of the, if I'm going to impart some kind of supposed sophistry on this one, that might be the angle. It's like, okay, maybe they're just not up to it. I mean, they 3 times they basically gave the game away to Washington, and maybe that's the play. Not that I would do it, but just I would. Washington plus would not be the angle that I would take on this one at all. I'd go money line
No,
instead.
yeah. I just feel like based on how we've seen Washington play, I feel like and what the book is pricing in with the not -9.5, what they're trying to say is they're basically pricing in like, hey, guess what? There's like tail probability of Oregon just blowing them out. I think that's kind of what my model is saying, except it's much more likely for my model saying it's the blowout. But like, I feel like even the 9.5, like this is a conference championship game against against one of the better teams in all of college football, and you're putting a 9.5 there. Like Washington is the number 3 team in the country, and you're
Yeah.
putting their 9.5 point dogs to the number 5 team. Like they're saying this could be a blowout. So we'll see. I don't know. I am excited. I'm absolutely excited for this game. I will be watching this game on Friday night. Super excited for this, and yeah, it's going to be a hell of a game. Hopefully, or not. Maybe
Yeah,
I guess.
if it gets to more than Oregon by more than 2 scores, I'm definitely going to go to my DVR of Aqueduct Park instead because it's Washington's not coming back once it gets to 2 scores. I can just tell you that. Not that I need to
Yeah.
convince you. All right, Maction, Saturday morning Maction. I don't. I'm kind of, well. I'll put it this way. I think your model is more reflective than my model. Um, issue one, Miami, Toledo given 8.5, total of 46.5. My first issue is this 78 Apex. Now, this is Avion Smith because Brett Gabbert got hurt. This BuckMetrics model projection is player indifferent. So there's a lot of Brett Gabbert into this number and a little Avion Smith. For those who don't know, the LeanTossup, Robert's simulations go with the current quarterback, and that is Avion Smith, and there is a much larger delta there. Um, you know, I'm inclined to go with your number. Now, Miami has, despite this concerning number right here, Miami's been a little bit gritty, although they struggled a little bit last week against a really bad Ball State team. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to contradict myself here. Kind of wanted to say, but it's going to be different going against a really good Toledo defense here. Now, having said that, that's Jason Candle, who always finds a way to disappoint at some point. Except for last season. What's interesting too is you've got Miami's defense is actually better than Toledo's here. Um, DeQuan Finn won 10 Apex for the season. Good for you. We just said that he had a really bad game against Central Michigan. Um, the more I talk about it, I'm kind of I'm kind of talking myself out of the big margin that your model is showing. So if I was going to play this, I'd go Toledo just because I believe your model is better than mine in this case. I kind of wonder then, I don't know, is the market more married to my number in this case, do you think?
Maybe. I don't know why. Maybe the market doesn't believe Toledo. I can kind of see that because Toledo has good weeks and bad weeks, and maybe they're just like, maybe Miami will give them a bad week. This was another one I teased down. I think I teased Toledo down to 2.5, and then I think I teased SMU up to 8.5 against Tulane. So I have this one. I don't think I've bet this one straight yet. But I think I'd play Toledo here. I don't know if I'd play the over, but I probably should play the over because I have 59 points here. Um, but I don't know if I actually. You should also arguably play the over as well. But I don't know if I'm going to play the over or not. Maybe I'll think about it. But
Yeah, this is actually at 7.5 now, and the total's down to 44.
interesting.
I think this is at Ford Field, so it's not like it's a snowy, weird kind of wind is gonna, keep this one from getting out of control. You've got two good defenses though too, for MAC, at least for MAC level, compared to those offenses. So yeah, that total does look a little. I don't know why it's going lower too, but you know these defenses do not lend themselves to underplays either. I think Toledo was an over last week, and I think they hit that. So yeah, okay. Move on to the Big 12 game.
Yeah,
I just I look at my eyes just kind of stop right here, and I don't know. Now maybe this low number is due to, if I'm going to be optimistic, say it's due to skiing. I don't know. I would see a lot of Leach quarterbacks would have low apexes just because they throw so much and they throw a lot of short stuff. You know, I get concerned though seeing this, and they've got apparently like the best running back in the country as well. Ollie, is it Ollie Gordon? I think it's Ollie Gordon the second. I I just can't make a case for Oklahoma State here. Your model has it even more so in favor of Texas than me.
yeah. I One thing I will say though is that I think how many it's been a couple of years straight where Texas has like always lost to Oklahoma State. They lost to them last year. They lost to them in the year. Now to be fair, Texas there's a couple of bad Texas years in there. I don't know. This is corrupted. I think I've seen 14 and a half in books now. This was 13 and a half, then it's
Mm-hmm.
14 and a half now. I don't know. Cause I have a 24 margin here, so I have like a 10-point Texas cover here. I don't know. I feel like at some point Texas is going to have a bad game. They've been very lucky a couple times there. They were very lucky against TCU. They got caught against Oklahoma. Um, but the one number I look at here when I see it is that Oklahoma State defensive rating. That's probably among
Yeah.
one of their better defensive teams. And the thing is, Oklahoma, one of the better defensive teams Texas played against Oklahoma. Um, Texas lost against Oklahoma, which was, I think, at that point one of the better teams they had
Yeah.
played, and then Oklahoma State handled Oklahoma as well. So I I worry that, well, not really worry. I'd actually be totally fine with Texas loses this game, but my concern for Texas would be that they play a good defense that can stop the run, and then they get shut down, and then you force Quinn Ewers to throw, and then you get like two interceptions, and then that ends the game. And I've been weirdly going over. I don't know why. I feel like my model is still a little too big on points. But I feel like I think there is a path for Oklahoma State to win. There's definitely a path for them to cover this game, and there's definitely a path for them to win this game. And I just I don't know, like 12-1 Texas based on the season they had. It's just like I don't know if it sits right with me. If that makes sense. I'm just like I don't know if they just don't feel like a 12-1 team. Now they could win, and that's fine. This just doesn't feel like a 12 like Iowa, like 10-2. It just doesn't feel right. But I don't know. Maybe they win and cover the spread. But if I'm betting, I'm not going to bet Texas here. If I bet anything, I take Oklahoma. But I'm iffy on that.
Yeah, I've actually got Oklahoma State like as a bottom five team in the conference. This kind of reminds me of TCU last season. Now TCU wasn't that lowly rated. It just seems, and I don't. Well, actually, I probably have that. Let me look at this real quick. I wonder what their luck metric is. It might be just kind of like it's been one of their years. Uh, yeah, 2.8. Oh boy. Yeah, they're third in the. This is interesting. your three luckiest teams in all of FBS: number one, Iowa; number two, Washington. Explains a bit why you're seeing regression in the numbers, but not in the record. And number three, Oklahoma State. I'm not going to bet Texas here, but there's no way I could bet Oklahoma State. That's for sure. If I was going to bet a side, it would be Texas, but I don't know. I'm not wild of giving more than two scores with Steve Sarkisian and an important
yeah.
to put those
That's the
concepts
thing,
together.
right? It's like I don't have anything on this game yet, but like you're having me lay 14.5 points with Sarkisian in a championship game. Now, the thing that makes this ugly is the fact that Oklahoma State was supposed to destroy BYU and they just didn't, and they almost lost that game. But I feel like in some ways maybe they were looking ahead to Texas and just completely forgot about BYU, because I think even BYU forgot about BYU a little bit there. So cause it was BYU was bad, like really bad, like, but they turned it around and they gave Oklahoma State a fight. So I don't know. This is with Texas fans. This is like a recipe for disaster potentially. Of the like, it's okay, guys. We win one game and we're in the college football playoff. I don't know. It's so easy of like, they're just gonna go in. They're just gonna win this game, win a Big 12 championship to send themselves out as the champion of the Big 12, just as they're about to leave it. I don't know. There's just something about it that I'm just like, I don't. And it's Mike Gundy, who's beaten them a lot of times, and they have a good defense. So I don't know. Maybe he's got something cooked up for Steve Sarkisian one last time, but I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting game. I'll say that.
Yeah, I can't buy Oklahoma State's defense too. I think that 2.4 might be a little generous, if anything, too. But
yeah,
red flags on both sides, so not my game to play. All right. I don't know. This is the computer says that it's Boise State at UNLV. Is this correct? I
guess I would have put San Jose State in, but okay.
Yeah, likewise. All right, and then Boise State to that point is actually favored by 3. Total of 58.5, little high, above average, we'll say. I like this. I like the 142 QB apex for UNLV. He's had especially considering it's his first year as a starter, that is something solid. Boise State's offensive rating is actually better. Shout out to your guy, Bush Hamden, for the tremendous job he's done after I buried him. He actually has turned him around. Now they've gotten to running the ball more. And Taylor Green has been better as of late, but still, this disparity right here is really concerning to me. If I'm a Boise fan, especially since the defenses are about equally powerful. I've got this as a close one, as do you. You actually have Boise State winning another close one too. I don't want to go against my model here. But geez, if I was going to make a play here, it would definitely be UNLV on the money line. Let me just see if this is moved.
To be fair, I have that too. I've got Boise -1. The spread is -3, so that's kind of like I'm saying lean UNLV there.
Yeah,
we both have the over too.
Yeah, it's down to 2, and the over stayed at 58.5. Yeah, interesting. There's not much value at UNLV plus 110 on the money line. That's kind of the only play I would make. I can't get over this. I'm sorry. I can't get over this disparity right here on the QB apex. It
would be hilarious if it would be so funny if they literally just okay, we're gonna Boise has bad season, fires head coach, wins Mountain West anyways. That would be so funny. Yeah. But funny to the point where I'm I don't even think it's physically possible to happen. I don't even think it can happen. So, but
yeah, I'm thinking the closest that we've come to that actually might have been Clay Helton, where he took USC to the 2015.
That's right. Yeah, he did.
Pac-12 title game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they made a mess of that, and I think he made a mess of things for basically every year since. So, All right. I don't know. I'm a little biased here too. And you've got the firing of the coach. You've got the improvement of the offense here. So I'm not going to play this. If you gave me $10, I'd play at UNLV money line, but no play here. Sounds like you might do the over, might not.
I think I do the over. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, here's some quarterback play. My goodness. Look at those apexes. 173 for Alabama, 153 for Georgia. Um, Georgia given 5.5. Let me see if that's down to 5 at some shops. The total is down to 54, which is interesting. Georgia is one of those teams. Let me pull up my metrics here and just make sure I'm not talking out on my posterior here. Um, Georgia is tough to bet on totals because, well, they were until recently. They had both an offense and a defense that made them bettable for overs and unders, which I just kind of tap out at that point because I've got mixed signals here. So here we've got Georgia. Their offense is a 10.6 power rating, so that means we can bet the over here. So that might be a play. If I'm looking at yours, there's a little bit of margin. Mine actually has this right on. The problem is that Alabama's defense is only a 7.5. So yeah, maybe the over might be playable here if you like your numbers better than mine. Um, I think this is not anything that I really imagined I was going to say when, back in August when we were talking about the SEC in preseason mode. Jalen Milroe is really undervalued and overlooked as a quarterback. And how's that for the surprising narrative of 2023? If you like the over, I think I'd basically pin it on those hopes. Now, maybe Georgia's defense is better than that 7.0, but they've kind of, I've been saying for weeks now that their defense has been a little disappointing in terms of what I expected coming in. So yeah, I'm a little mixed here. I'm not going to play it. If I was, I'd probably rely on your numbers and go over. Would be my thought process.
It's it's a very weird feeling because the thing is we felt like because this was the SEC championship game 2 years ago. Bama won that SEC championship game. Georgia eventually got revenge in the championship game. Then last year LSU beating Alabama, and due to the magic of divisions, LSU was in the championship game, and then we didn't see this. We didn't see them play last year, but it's just like, and like I think in the SEC championship game and in the playoff game, Georgia was an underdog to Bama both times. And Alabama was the underdog by 3 points, I think, both times. In the championship game, they crushed them. Now it's close most of the game. They pulled away at the end, but still, though, it's like my model has this. I think what 8? No, 9, 9,
Mm-hmm.
9-ish. I think it's 8 something, 8 point something, which rounds to 9 when you round the numbers up. It's just like, and then the spread is 5, which is actually there's some value in Georgia, not a ton. If you told me Bama won this game, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Georgia has an undefeated season, but they've had one of the more underwhelming undefeated seasons. They just keep beating bad SEC teams, and they make them look bad. And like I think the best team they've beaten is Missouri, basically, just straight up. Like they have played no one else that's good. They destroyed Florida, they destroyed Kentucky, they destroyed Tennessee. They beat Missouri, but they actually almost lost to Missouri. They beat Georgia Tech by 8. Like at times, this Georgia team has looked really bad, but then Bama almost lost to Auburn last week. Now, to be fair, it's a rivalry game. Maybe a bit of look ahead of Alabama, looking ahead to the SEC championship game, because again, that is a much younger team. Jalen Milroe is a much younger quarterback now. So I don't know. I think this could be a hell of a game. Um, I want to see this game. I believe I will be able to see this game. Um, but it's just like if you told me Bama won, I don't know what to bet in this game. Honestly, if you told me Bama won this game, I'd be like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
The more we talk about it, the more I'm not surprised that Okay, yeah, the least bettable, sharpest line game is the SEC. Of course, that has the most focus. One thing I'm looking at here too, I pulled up my week 5, the first full blown metrics that I trust. Um, at that point, the Bama offense was a 2.3, and they've improved to a 5.8. So I think that, if we kind of say, okay, we take out the first 4 weeks for Jalen Milroe going up the learning curve, they might actually be closer to this 10. Oops, I forget where my. They might actually be closer to this 10 than we think here. Um, I might be talking myself into an Alabama money line play here.
Yeah,
Kind of
I
after
might
talking
be.
to you too, which is not where I expected to go with this, but I'm going to
I
actually write
mean,
that
even
down. That's
the
what's
more
fun
I'm
about
thinking about
this.
this, I mean, I have a field goal value on Georgia, and I'm even like, but like this, if this upset was to happen, this would cause chaos in the CFP. Like, I don't even know what would happen. Like, okay, aside from Michigan being one, barring a miracle in in
Mm-hmm.
Indianapolis, I uh, who do you even does the SEC miss the playoffs? Do you put Alabama
Nah,
over a
there's no
team
way.
that they lost
Yeah.
to?
Yep. No, oh no. So they lost to? Yeah. Yeah. But they don't give a crap about that. They'll be.
But
Robert,
see,
Robert, who's on the committee? Who is on
yeah,
the
that's right.
committee?
The Sugar
Not,
Bowl.
yeah. Yeah. That kind of tends. Why do you think he's there? Do you think he's there to sell sugar?
The problem is though, like I feel like there's competing narratives here because, like, I think on one hand, ESPN would love a crack because, like, the thing is, the Big Ten media rights are owned by Fox and it's shared with NBC, and I think CBS is in there as well, or will be in there next year as well. ESPN would love a crack of Michigan, Ohio State. They'd love that. That would be their because they own the Bulls, so they would absolutely love that. On the other hand, Texas is going to the SEC next year, and ESPN owns their rights. And I could imagine some tersely worded letters being sent to ESPN if Texas is excluded as a one-loss conference champion and Ohio State were to get in, or Bama as a one-loss conference champion were to get in ahead of Texas. So I can imagine some tersely worded letters there. But this is the thing. I don't know. Maybe because I think isn't didn't ESPN cut a sweetheart deal with Texas with like, oh, okay, well, you something with we'll pay you and you'll go, but then you leave now, but you don't get the media rights deal, but we're gonna just pay you
What
money off to the side. They did some sort of backroom deal on that. Same with Texas
it
and
was,
Oklahoma.
it was the buyout of the Longhorn Network. Just happened to terminate that deal. ESPN had to pay Texas just that amount that literally just happened to be the amount of their exit fee from the Big
Huh?
12. Not
Coincidence.
surprising. Yeah. Now, I might have missed something here. I don't know. When you're saying ESPN might do something with who they want, are you saying that like something like with the bowl president, there might be something untoward? I don't understand that might. Uh, can that happen?
Yeah, I mean you're implying corruption. It's crazy. How
Yeah,
could how
I
could
know.
there possibly be corruption with this?
No,
It's like
because
this
who
isn't
among
this
us is
isn't
not
FIFA.
paid like. No, yeah. Who among us is not paid $500,000 a year to wear an oddly colored blazer and shake hands and do weird stuff like that? Hey, one other thing on the SEC, and it's not involving this, although it involves the only QB that's better than these two in this game. I'm wondering, just kind of randomly, are we going to wait for Jaden Daniels until after the Heisman Trophy to say I'm not going to play in the LSU's bowl game, for fear that that might affect his votes? And might there be some
Mm.
value there to say, are they going to price in that Jaden Daniels is playing, and then after the Heisman Trophy he says I'm not? Just something to think about, and we can get
Well,
in
I
the
am
bowl
yeah.
previews.
I am going to be sitting here in this room on Saturday. I'm going to be hitting refresh a bunch on that page, and there's going to be some bets being made the second some of those lines go live. And yeah, I think it could be very interesting with, especially with that, with like Jaden Daniels not playing in a bowl is going to be an interesting one. New Mexico, like any of the Conference USA teams, Liberty, whatever bowl they're playing in, I'm instantly going to bet their spread. Instantly going to bet New Mexico State spread. Instantly going to bet um, Jacksonville State. Instantly going to bet James Madison. Like those are instant ones. I like for some of them I don't even care about this. Like okay, maybe there's some line, but like if it's like, oh, Liberty's 3.5 point favorite, I'm like okay. I don't own a house, but I wish I did in moments like this. But this is the thing, right? It's like for some of these, it's like yeah, there's no way this isn't. There's no way that they're gonna. And some of those lines are gonna like the New Mexico State's gonna be getting 7 points to some mediocre team from a conference. It's like okay,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on to the American. Um,
yes,
this one I probably like the best. It's not an official model play because your model didn't confirm it by the same 7 points that I have it. Um, this is interesting. I mean, these you've got basically two QBs with almost the same apex. Um, it's at Tulane, which is interesting. So there's a little bit of a difference between the power ratings and my projections here. Tulane's, I think, getting like 3 points for the home field there. Um, I kind of made not a case against SMU because it was just a more of a, I want to see what's going on here. After they started 4-0 in the American, and I said, yeah, the water's going to get deeper, and they responded very impressively. Like we talked about earlier, they've jumped into the top tens of various of my metrics. We've also pointed out some of the shortcomings of Tulane. The power rating bears out that just, for really, and this is not a modern thing or a recent thing, I've had SMU well ahead of Tulane for almost the whole season. You've been a little more, your numbers are a little more bearish on SMU here, although you have them winning here. I like Tulane money line here. It's not, like I said, it's not enough to be an official model play, but
you
I
mean
definitely
SMU
like
money
them.
line?
Sorry, SMU. You're correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I like SMU here too. I mean, again, you're getting four. It's down to four now, but I think that's definitely still. I mean, anything over three is playable here, right? And
Yeah.
like UTSA outgained Tulane last week. Now they lost by 12 because of the 5 turnovers, and some of those were bad. And if they just didn't do that, they'd have won that game, and we wouldn't be having this. Then SMU would be like a 2.5 point favorite in this game, and we wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
to deal with Tulane going to New Year's Six bowl game right now. So yeah, I'm on SMU here. Give me the Mustangs. The future eight this next year SMU will be in the ACC because of I think
Yeah.
bribery. So yeah,
Is this bribery? Is this number a pick'em? If Eric Gentry actually makes that end zone interception that it looked like in against Tulane in that last second score, is there literally that much of a carryover? Do you think that whole thing is just a I won't call it a fluke, but it was a very fortunate touchdown that really should have been a touchdown or an interception. And I'm wondering how much of that is baked into this.
yeah,
Literally, I think there's just kind of like a what do they call it? Like an you know this better than me. Would it be like an autocorrelation where it's like, oh, this is a good team, and so B
yeah,
says it's a good team. Then A looks at B and says, oh, well, it's a good team. Then B looks at A and says, oh, well, A says it's a good team. So it's a
yeah. I mean, the thing is, when a lot of the people like again, we're doing deep, detailed analysis of like conference strength, uh, deep analysis of metrics, and people are like, Tulane's the highest. Like people like literally, and when you and to be fair, this isn't exactly their fault. 'Cause it's not exactly their job. But when everybody's like, oh well, in a 12 team playoff, if that happened this year, Tulane would be there, and like they have to say
yeah,
that because that's technically who it would be, and like they forecast it through. But like they shouldn't be there. They're not the best team. I don't know why you have Tulane as the best G5 team. It doesn't make sense. They are not. They shouldn't be.
yeah. Well, and to your point, I think there's even a less informed uh, part of the population that literally would just say, well, Tulane beat USC last year.
Yeah,
They
of
beat
course they
Kelly
would.
Williams. They can't beat SMU.
Yeah,
What's up with 4 points? Come on.
and I think
So
that's
yeah,
the other piece to it too, right? So, and that's why they've been such favorites
yeah.
in every game this year.
This is interesting. So when I did this, Tulane was -4.5, and the money line was +160. And the moves aren't big, but I never get this. So it's down to 4, but the money line is up from 160 to 165.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
actually
understand that. it it's just the divergence between the two. I guess maybe when they're setting the money line originally, they just screwed up, but maybe that means they're got a little more at plus 165. So
Maybe.
okay, sounds like we're like minds here.
Mm-hmm.
App State versus Troy. Um, Two unexpectedly good quarterbacks. App State had a really rough patch there for about a month after they. Here's another team we forgot to say. Louisiana Monroe fired their coach Terry Bowden. You might remember that App State beat them by 1, and that grabbed my attention. So I had something in my hey, let's keep a note on this. And they just had a rough month from there forward where they stunk. When they're winning, it wasn't impressive against bad teams. But they won they won ish the East. They beat JMU, although they finished behind them in the standings. But okay, you got there. You know, the home field is actually, for Troy's moving this to a 6-point game in my projections. The power ratings are kind of even. You've got it at 4. I just don't see much value here. I've got this going well over, as do you. You've got a total of 62, and I've got a total of, actually, mine's not that far, 56. But neither of these offenses are that good to really merit an overplay, especially if you've got a good Troy defense as well. So I see a lot of mixed signals here. Nothing really here to play. I will do a little bit of a victory lap, not to spoil anything, and say, as much as I was looking forward to South Alabama coming into the season, I settled on Troy winning that side of the division just because South Alabama had a few questions. So yeah, I can't see myself playing this. Be nice to see the Sun Belt on ESPN though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's weird. Like I think in one of my teasers I teased this down to Troy minus the 0.5. So that's kind of nice, but at the same time, like, has App State figured it out? Like, and that's if they have, it's kind of scary because they did beat JMU, who's probably the best Sun Belt team, even though they don't get to play in this game. Yeah, I kind of think it's maybe there's some value on App State here. It's a little concerning, and I'll think like you're looking at plus 6.5, plus 215 on the main line. I only got this as 4. Like App State could make a game of this, so I'll think about it. I'm maybe not done with this game yet. Maybe I'll put something on App State. We'll see.
Yeah, this is interesting because when you were talking about that, I was saying, well, Troy's defense, but this is interesting right here too. That's a good matchup here. The offense, a strong offense against a strong defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think App State actually, I think they lost their OC. Why I was a little bit down on them. That's the guy that went to Miami to coach for Mario. I bet he's having fun right about now.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of Mario, the ACC. We've talked about this one quite a bit. I do want to point out that on the season, Rademacher's QB Apex is 153. Now, he did have some relief duty where he had like one attempt for 1 touchdown on 80 yards, and so that skews it. Kind of going back to I wonder what that Jalen Milroe pass did to his Apex. The Apex is not factored into the power rating here. As I said, my power ratings are player indifferent. So I've got this literally, and this is at a neutral field. I've got the spread basically right on the number 3.5. It's actually down to 2.5 now. So, having said that, I cannot see any value because this is a player indifferent number, and there's a lot of Jordan Travis in this power rating right here, and especially this offensive rating right here. Now, interestingly, you did, and I think I checked this. You have Rodemaker in your Sims too, and you still have them winning by 4, which is interesting.
I don't. I think I've rerun it, and I have 2.5 now. But just to be fair, 1.5 point difference isn't much over 1,000 sims. It feels like it's big because it's a key number, but it's like it's not. When it's that small, it's not really. So I kind of have this as like up right on the play. And the thing is, I actually grabbed this on Sunday at 5.5, 5.5 in money line. So I'm happy with that. But like.
But you grabbed Louisville?
Yeah, I grabbed Louisville plus 5.5
wow.
on Sunday. So I'm already set up pretty well for this weekend. But no,
yeah.
it's the thing is, it's like The other thing is, so you make me the point that your QB Apex has a lot of Jordan Travis in there, and mine doesn't. Mine has Tate Rodmaker in there, or what
Yeah,
my equivalent of Apex would be. But at the same time, my offensive rating still has a lot of Jordan Travis in it, like a lot of Jordan Travis in it. And while mine is able to put in a kind of a decay factor, or rather a higher weight on more recent results, so my model sees that Florida game and it's like, yeah, okay, we're going down here a little bit. It's still not enough because I try to make it so it doesn't overreact to one game, because generally you don't want that. Again, this is an extremely special circumstance. This very rarely happens. This is not an
yeah,
unusual occurrence that the star quarterback gets knocked out 2 games before the conference championship
yeah.
game, right?
It's a
So I
mid-season thing
try.
that
Mhm.
happens. Yeah,
I try, and then the other thing is that it doesn't even see the model doesn't even see the FCS game. It doesn't even see that game, right? So this is the problem. Now it does actually it sees it a little bit in Tate Rodmaker stats, because those stats from that game carry over, but it doesn't view it as a game, because if you add FCS teams, weird stuff happens. Um, we're gonna work on that in the off season. But anyways, um, no, I think it's a very like I think at 2.5, you don't want to play the Florida State line. You don't want to play Louisville, but I think if it's like a teaser leg, and again, if we're talking about like uh, SMU up to 10, that's not bad. Uh, Georgia down to even, or Bama up to 12. And that one's a bit iffier. Like Troy down to, like if you want to couple with a teaser leg, so you get to sit on a nice Louisville plus 8.5. Like the thing is, it's funny because like Louisville was 8.5 point favorites against Kentucky, and like I was like, I think I had that even, and I'm like, no, and I picked Kentucky there. I grabbed Kentucky spread money line. That was nice. And Kentucky legitimately tried to give that game away, but Louisville also tried to give that game away too, repeatedly. I just, if there was a time for Louisville to do something, it would be like this game. Keep like, oh, they just lost to Kentucky, they're bad, and then they just go up. But like Florida State has had so many scrapes with death, most notably last week when they should have lost that game. It was sheer stupidity that they're still undefeated. And there's been other close times too, like the Clemson game that they should have lost. The only reason they beat the Clemson team was because of a defensive fumble recovery, a defensive fumble recovery 6. And when Jordan Travis got knocked out of the game, they were losing to South Alabama. Now, okay, fine, they came back and crushed them, but like they were losing to South Alabama for like a D2 team for quite a while, or
yeah.
North
North
Alabama, sorry.
Alabama. Yeah,
Yeah, not disperse the name of South Alabama. No, but this is the thing. It's like they've had a lot of close scrapes of death, and they were really close last week, and they pulled it out, but it was
but
close. I mean, actually, remember we forget the Boston College game. Remember the Boston
yeah,
College game? They almost lost to Boston College. Like they've had a lot of close scrapes of death here, and this is it. This is the penultimate, the basically the last week here, the penultimate thing before the Bulls. And like, can Louisville finally end this and just say? And the thing is, like, if there was a team you're going to pick who could have that day when they just play like amazing, yeah, it's Louisville, because they're weird that way. I don't know. I don't hate the idea of taking Louisville in the points here in this game. Like, give me Louisville over a score, and I'll take it. I'll take it any day.
yeah. You know what I'm looking at? I'm just pulling up Florida State's kind of their season, their game by game metrics here. The improvement that I noted where they jumped into the defensive top 20 here. If I'm just looking sequentially, it really makes sense. In their last 6 games, they are basically by expected points, they're like 10 points a game better. So I don't know. That goes back to that puncher's chance that I think they might have. Now, having said that, that might explain why that totals down to like 48 now, I think.
Yeah.
So I think this actually becomes a rock fight. So I don't see. I think our numbers are probably too high, if anything. So I'm not going to play it. Probably will watch it just because I definitely will, because I have that Florida State ticket. Although once USC Gonzaga comes on, then we'll be playing. I don't know, shuffle the channels, I guess, for a couple of hours there.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting game, but sounds like no plays. Well, you've got
I got some already on it, but
yeah
nothing else other
on
than that.
Louisville, but yeah, nothing else on that. Uh, Considerably less watchable, and you know what sticks out to me? I mean, just everything on this Iowa line is just pure Iowa. The 25 quarterback apex, the the -11 offensive rating, of course. Literally, their offense is as bad as their defense is good, and their defense is the second best in the entire country, kids. So, which means on average, somehow a 10-2 team by power ratings is below average FBS team. Nothing makes sense with Iowa. I do believe, though, the projected 5 points, that is almost a certainty. I can definitely see the 5 coming. You have 8, and
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. And it's not
Well,
a touchdown with a 2-point conversion.
remember what I said about the low scores of my model. Remember I said like, oh, I think like 9 is the floor for the points because like they just eventually the model just eventually muddles them along to they've somehow eclipsed that. They're like, no, we're pushing the model. We're gonna break
Yeah.
it even more. That's something to look figure out in the offseason why the model has like a floor of 9 and why somehow Iowa was able to beat that floor somehow. But no, like
This
5 is perfect. Field goal safety that screams what's about to happen. And then the
this is like
25.
this is like
Yeah.
two people saying, "Hey, this student's going to get below 400 on the SAT." Well, it's not possible. Well, yeah, you kind of are. You know, you're not going to put your name correctly, I guess, on the test is what it comes
Mm-hmm.
down to with the Iowa offense.
It's it's so funny because as you go through their projections, like sometimes my total is like 20 points, 10 or 20 points higher than in a game on any given average. This one exactly the total, like just exactly. It's exactly the total, like just bang on. Um, I don't know. This game is unwatchable. The spread and total here is iconic. This
You're
I've never seen a spread total combo like this before. It's just
you're
like
quite you're quite the salesman here, I got to say.
this game is unwatchable. The
This game
numbers
is
make no
unwatchable.
sense. I don't know. It's just one fun thing I will say, and I want to try this maybe I'm not sure in the off season or not. I don't know. But like, what if we like in our modeling, like I just replaced Iowa's offense with like an average offense, like an offense they could get through the transfer portal. Like, what offense could they get? Like, could they get like what's an offense
You know
that they
what?
what's a benchmark they could get? Like,
Um, Illinois.
yeah, perfect. There you
How
go.
about
Give them Illinois'
yeah,
offense. See how good they are.
yeah? No, you could just. I mean, yeah. Um, what if DJU went there? That would be an interesting for their new offensive coordinator, whoever it is. That would be an interesting place for him to land. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a rough analog to I'm forgetting his name, the guy that was there before McCarthy at Michigan. That his car broke down in Iowa. Why am I forgetting his name?
I
Come
don't.
on,
No, I don't.
the guy who was like he was the quarterback before McCarthy. It's not
Oh,
McNamara, is
Cade
it?
McNamara.
Okay, it is
Mm-hmm.
McNamara. Actually, I look. This is actually a model play. I've got a total of 30, and I've got 2 elite defense. Oh, you know why it's not? This is an elite offense, so I've got mixed bag here. Michigan's unplayable on totals because you've got an elite offense and defense.
Yeah.
So I'm just
See,
not going to play him, but yeah,
the
5 points
reason why,
is significant.
yeah, the reason why the 35 is unplayable here is because now that Michigan beat Ohio State and they've got Jim Harbaugh back, this is the Jim Harbaugh like F everybody else game. So like, and I've seen some people speculate online, but like, yeah, take Iowa in the points. Like, if Michigan gets out there and scores like 21 points, are they really going to bother to score again? Harbaugh's going to be like, F them, we're going to go score a bunch more times because to show people that we weren't cheating or some shit, I don't know. But that's what Harbaugh's going to do. So like, this is why but the thing is, at the same point in time, they could just not do that, which is why the the totals are unplayable. But then like the total's unplayable too. Like the spread is unplayable and the total's unplayable. So I don't know. Maybe you could say like, but like maybe you do Michigan minus 23 and the over, It's like Michigan scores 40 points. Maybe that's a play. I don't know.
I
But
kind of want to say, well, let's just not assume that they can score here because Iowa's the second best defense in all of college football, just behind Penn State. But I want to look at because they did score almost. I don't want to say it, they scored a good amount of points against a very good Ohio State defense. So I want to see. There's 7, 10, 14. And Maryland had 17 against Ohio State. It's not like people scored a lot against Jesus. Yeah. So they scored 30 against Ohio State and nobody else. I mean, that's like 10 points more than anybody else scored. Yeah. I can't see them running it up. I don't know. This. Yeah. I think the arbitrage here, if you can get a single game parlay, is somehow just, between Michigan and the over and then the total, if that makes sense. I can't see Iowa scoring more than I don't know. I think your 8 is generous. I'll put it that way.
I think it
So
is too.
yeah,
But I think 9 is the floor, and they've gotten below that. So
yeah. So I don't know. I might watch this maybe just on the app until Michigan gets up by like 4 points, and then it's over, literally.
Michigan kicks a field goal. All right, guys, game over.
Yeah. So okay. So sounds like no real play here, although a lot of anguish in trying to get to that conclusion.
It's
All
just
right.
so ugly.
Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Buck the bookie. Here's what's still alive. You've got Florida State to make the playoff with the Buck Book. You've got Oregon to win. That's now looking nice at a plus 220 at DraftKings. And then you've got basically the same thing here at plus 450 at DraftKings. Boy, that was a horrible number they put up there, huh? And this was after this. Jesus. Really bad. And then you've basically, you've got Iowa. You're basically laying money now on Iowa, in effect, on that last one here. I don't think that's how you drew that one up. I think that was more of an Iowa State play.
No, I mean, that was basically Ohio State money line.
Yeah.
And didn't happen. And it's like, you functionally cross it off as dead, but it's, yeah. Again, people will say, like, oh, it's like sour grapes that you're saying about the Big Ten title game being a disgrace because that is like, well, I mean, okay, like when I bet Ohio State to win the Big Ten or like Michigan to not, that was like literally just Ohio State beating. I knew that going in, that was baked in. I was like, that's this money line play. That's money. Like, but it's still just sad. It is just a tragedy that this is the championship game for the Big Ten.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I still don't get how this goes to that later. That's just some real magic by DraftKings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whoever was supposed to copy the other people's numbers was asleep at their desk that day, clearly. All right, that'll be settled next week, and then we'll figure out who's the winner. God help me if DraftKings makes more money or more points than me on this one. That'll just be embarrassing. It kind of undoes the whole point of the exercise. So I guess I need to pull for you as it relates to DraftKings, definitely.
So, okay. Hopefully.
All right. Last week's play, mine went 2-0. You hit the big bagel here, buddy.
Now was the spread 10.5? Because I got 12.5 for Texas A&M.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Did they cover that?
Yeah, they covered 12.5. Yeah.
Okay.
So I got scraped back the one win. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah. And then the dual model plays were 2-2. Composite ROI on the season is 14%. I do want to point out that this is well over 13.9%. This is incredible. I'm kind of curious too. So just to kind of go back to my prior life when I was a unhappily employed executive in healthcare, we had a self-insured medical plan, and our broker said, what you're going to see is over 5 years, you're going to have 1 year where claims are great, 1 year where claims are just horrible, and 3 that are just okay. And have you kind of seen that? I know that doesn't line up with really polling, as it's a little different. Have you kind of
Mhm.
heard that kind of guidance in terms of, like, performance? And I'm wondering if there's any kind of, is this our one great year when we're talking about the dual model, and maybe it's good but not that great? 'Cause this is just
Eh,
nuts here. 37-21 is
I, th- I, th- the thing is, I think there is value here, right? This is not like when you're looking at like
yeah.
medical claims over whatever years. Those are influenced by outside factors, right? And like our models are designed to improve and factor in things outside, right? So it's not necessarily the same. Um,
I mean, but
I
this is
think.
64%. That's beyond what the pros can do, or
Mhm.
say they
Oh,
can do.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we're
And
good
last
at
year was our
this.
59%. So
Yeah.
maybe this is our good year. I don't know. I say that because I'm a little concerned about the bad year. And what does the bad year look like? Is it 52%? I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So these are all ready to go now. This is really cool. Can see who was, where we missed and where we hit on who makes the conference title games. The lesson here is listen to the guests, not us. The guests
Hmm.
actually sat out for 4 of the conferences. Yet they had 7 correct versus 6 for you and 7 for me. So their average is way higher than us. Um, although although I do want to point out we both had this, and this seemed like just unreal having New Mexico State. Um, that was a big stretch before the season, but
Hmm.
we both got there. I didn't believe me when I made that prediction. I didn't think that Western Kentucky would be the one to not hold up their end of the bargain.
Hmm. I think with a lot of these, there's like you can kind of like some of these. It's like Duke, okay, like
Yeah,
had he not get injured. Kansas again, same kind of thing.
Kansas,
Kansas
same.
State
Yeah,
had they beat Texas, Ohio State had they just beaten Michigan, that would have been another green one for me. Penn State had they beaten Ohio State or Michigan, had they just been a bit better. Oh, we both had Ohio. They could have potentially made it, but I think they were in the same division as what, Toledo? No, they're in the same division as Miami, right? Or
Miami and Ohio are in the same division.
yeah, so then they got beat. They just had a bit of a rough season there. Like Air Force, they should have made it. Um, both had USC. Very disappointing season for them. Um, LSU, bit disappointing for them too. I can't believe App State came through. That one feels like it's undeserved,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it, yes. I mean, to be fair, most title games we had like at least one correct pick in, um, but it's like there's a lot of like good work here, like good process on a lot of these, and I think that's the
Well,
main takeaway.
yeah. Shout out to Isaiah and Brendan Moore for getting both halves, something that neither of us was able to do in more
Hmm.
chances. They nailed their single shot, and we weren't able to do that in any of them in 10 shots. So
Yeah, I mean, shout out the call on Iowa. That like we both were like Iowa's bad, and he's like, no, Iowa's got this, and they broke all
yep,
laws of physics, and they had it.
that's why he's the Big 12 course Big 10, pardon me, correspondent. So, and sadly, no plays this week.
No.
Nothing, not surprising at this point. Kind of everything's baked into most of the numbers. And so the regular season and conference championships end with the wrong team's favorite at a 26% ROI. If you played a money line, if you did, congratulations. Against the number, it was, I think, probably even a little bit better than that. So with that, that concludes part 2. And we will have, after the bowl games are announced, we're going to have, I think, a couple of episodes, maybe 2, maybe 3. We got to figure it out in a format similar to what we did today. We'll kind of figure out what we need to adjust to. But I think that went pretty well. And we're going to have a little bit different rather than just pick, pick, pick. We're going to have a little special twist, kind of a buck the bookie, little twist element to it, which will be fun. And I think it'll make it a little more exciting than just 3 dudes just saying team A or team B. So
Hmm.
that is all for this part 2. Robert, I'm sure we'll be
Yeah,
in contact during the from
yes.
Friday night till Saturday. And if Oregon is
Oh,
doing very well, I'm going dark on you, buddy.
or very bad. Yeah, I mean it's we will see. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Either way, if Oregon makes it, great. If they don't, be very sad. But I mean, they'll play in a New Year's Six bowl or something probably.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll get to play Tulane or something. So
They're landing in a good spot no matter what. So, all right.
yeah.
Well, thank you all.
All
It
right.
was still in a week. And until then,
Yep.
good luck.
See you then.